Are you ready to start your ministry driven business, but you're low on time and you don't have a lot of money? And you're also saying, I don't really know how. Well, I got something coming for you. It's called the Monetize Your Ministry Summit. And we're specifically focused on how to get started if you're low on time, money, and know how. I got some amazing guests coming along, and I want you to register for it. Go to monetizeyourministrysummit.com. It takes place on June the 25th from 7 p.m. Tuesday, June 25th, 7 p.m. Eastern. Register now, register early, get the VIP. If you register early, monetizeyourministrysummit.com. Look forward to sharing with you how to get started, how to make income, how to make impact, even if you're low on time, money, and know-how. Now let's go to this week's episode.
Welcome to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast.
And you get a chance to interact with them. To me, that's full-time ministry.
Did I happy because start with that business is like a key. It brings in itself and then opens it.
I want to provide content and things that are going to help change lives, and I simultaneously want you to receive a blessing from that.
Now here's your host, Kamon Hans.
How do you build a business on creating events and hosting events? Well, our guest today is the Olivia Pope of events, and I'm so excited to talk to her today. I want to present to some and introduce to others Melissa Jakes. Melissa, welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, I'm super excited being here. Absolutely.
I'm so glad that we were able to do this. You're a super busy person, and you don't get the title of Olivia Jakes, Olivia Pope of anything.
Yes.
Without being a very busy person. So
yeah,
we're going to make sure we make the best of your time. And I hope I said Olivia Pope in my intro. I might have said that wrong, but
you did.
Okay, cool. Well, let me read a little bit of your bio so that people know who is on the podcast today. Melissa Jakes is the CEO and founder of Rescue Event Planning. Listen to that name, Rescue Event Planning, a premier boutique firm based in Washington, D.C., specializing in orchestrating memorable events for influencers, organizations, corporations. Over her distinguished career, Melissa has been instrumental in planning a variety of significant events, grand weddings, major conferences, exclusive summits, and intimate gatherings, such as baby showers, birthday parties. Her exceptional skills have earned her the nickname, the Olivia Pope of events, from her clients. Now, we had to all shift during the pandemic. With the shift toward virtual formats due to the pandemic, Melissa has adeptly transitioned her expertise to online event planning, becoming a sought-after resource. Her company has successfully assisted nonprofits, small businesses, and entrepreneurs in scaling their operations by hosting impactful virtual events that enhance visibility and financial outcomes. Melissa, there's so much more we could say. You were named Best Event Planner on the East Coast by Rent My Wedding magazine. You've been the recipient of several awards, and you're someone who is always on the go, speaker, author, mom, wife, and we're just so glad to have you today on the Monetize Your Ministry podcast.
Yeah, super excited. Thank you again for having me.
All right, so I read that bio, but I love to ask this question because there's some stuff maybe you don't tell us in the bio, right? And maybe there are people who know you didn't even tell them. So what's something about Melissa Jakes that even people who think they know you would be surprised to learn?
So I'll give you two things. The first thing is, some people don't know that I have been featured in a movie that has been on the big screen.
Say word.
Yes, it's called, I think it's called Step Up. It's the young ladies who are stepping in Baltimore, Bliss, or Step It, or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah. And the second thing is, I really don't like to be around a lot of people.
What is it? Come on, you're an event planner. You're the one bringing all the fun and making sure people have fun. So how do you do that in this kind of field, in this kind of work, where you don't like to be around a lot of people? How do you do that?
I know I am an extrovert, but there's times where I love to be an introvert, and I can just stay home and watch SVU and be okay with my life.
Wait a minute. Give me a high five. I'm an SVU fan as well. Come on now, let's
Yes.
go. Let's go. I
Olivia
think we're
Benson. Yes.
season 22 now, I think.
Yeah. 25, I think. Or
Wow.
20.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
getting up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I know a little bit about your background. And one of the things about this podcast is we call this Monetize Your Ministry. And so I always want to ask my guests, when you hear the word ministry, what is the definition or even the word association that comes to your mind?
Yeah, it's really about the gift that God gave you. And some people don't realize that God gave them the gift and they're hiding from it. And so utilizing it to your best effort, because that's what you were put on the earth to do. And so what God gave you, utilizing that.
I love it. I love it. Curious for you, have you ever done any of those like spiritual gifts inventories, any of those things to like figure out what your spiritual gifts? Now we know that's not the full sum of your ministry, but I'm just curious if you've ever done one of those and if you know what some of your spiritual gifts might be.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I got into event planning, because it kept hitting me across the head. But really helping people. I love motivating people when they feel like they're stuck, or they're having a problem and they don't know how to push through it. That's a part of the reason why I got my master's in social work, is really helping people get to that other side. And whether I benefit from it or not, most of the time I really don't. And I don't care, because then it's getting them to where they need to get. And I know that blessing will always come from some otherwhere else. So that, and of course, organization and planning. So that's why that has really come into it. I hate to see things in disorder. And so I feel like I need to get up and help. Because when it's in disorder, it's like, okay, something's wrong here.
I could see those gifts. I could see those gifts. So Melissa, I want you to take us back a bit, right? You mentioned a little bit about your education, but we know what the work you do. We'll get to the work, but what do you study? What did you study in your educational pursuit? Because I want to know how that even ties in with what you're doing now. So tell us about that.
So I have my bachelor's in sociology from the Morgan State University. And then I got my master's at Howard University in social work.
Okay.
So totally nothing to do with event planning at all. Okay. But that's my educational background on where I am today.
So, okay, you go through those levels of study and those areas of study, and talk about your work. Like, did you talk about your work journey and even kind of tie for us, how do you study that, and then where does event planning come in any phase come in, right?
Yeah. So really event planning came from the beginning. Thanksgiving, I would be the one setting the Thanksgiving table.
Like, okay, so how long are we going back? Like what age?
I'm going back to like 7-8 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so I was the person who would get the name cards and say, Auntie's sitting here. I am placing you where you're sitting at the table. I am deciding where food is going on the table, what decor. And then that math went into, in high school, I went to Tacoma Academy. Okay. And we had probably like 80 of us graduating. And so in the SDA world, or Seventh-day Adventist world, for those who know about it, we have this 3-day weekend. We must have 3 events.
That's right. Friday, Saturday, and then you got some on Sunday.
And then you got Sunday commencement. So I was graduation chair.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, well, I just don't want the regular type of things. We need to up it every single day. It's like another intro, something new. So, Friday service, we did the normal things. Saturday service, we added a lot of urban gospel music into the program. And then on Sunday, I had the police guard walk us in with like the dogs and all the drumming and coming as we're entering in. So that's kind of where it started really getting to like events from like Thanksgiving table. And then in college, I joined Student Government Association. And you did events for your class. So whether it was, educational events, fun events, and then got to my year where I actually ran for SGA president. And so for HBCU, for those who know, homecoming is everything. And homecoming week is big. And so my year that I was actually a president, our president of the university was leaving after 25 years of service. And so we had a goodbye tour and then a hello tour for the new president coming in. So not only do we have homecoming and I Love Morgan Day, we have all these other events for thank you, President Richardson for it, and hello, President Wilson. And I really learned about budgeting. Our budget was like over probably close to like $600,000 at that time. And so for someone who's like 21, 22, dealing with $500,000, and dividing that through the classes and making sure we're still bringing in money in for the next administration was really interesting, and learned a lot with event planning. But I was like, that's great. I want to be a lawyer. I come from Jamaican parents, so they're like, you either be a teacher, a lawyer, or a doctor.
That's right.
So so I started studying for the LSATs, and I was like, yeah, I'm not sure. Let me just graduate and figure it out. And so I started working in DC in social services, but I kept getting calls from either Morgan, hey, can you come back and teach these kids how to do some events? They're not doing it right. They're not marketing right. And they're definitely not budgeting right. So can you come back and kind of coach them? And then as we have people graduating with us, they're either getting married or they're having babies. And so I did a lot of weddings. I did my own wedding, and I did some of their weddings and baby showers. And then eventually my husband was like, people keep coming to you. Why don't you just, do a business? And my biggest fear was that I'll have to tell a bride, your color scheme is ugly.
That was your fear.
That was my fear. That was like the only thing. Like, why won't you start? I was like, because I have to tell her like that doesn't look good. And he's like, that's dumb. I think you should start this business. So I started it in 2015. I was getting my master's. And really, let me back up a bit. I gave birth in 2014 to my daughter. And it is something like after you give birth and you're like in month 6 or 7, you're like, man, I can do this. Like, I could be a mom. Like, I felt I can really do this. I've accomplished a lot. And I don't know if it's something in like the hormones or what, but it really built up to that. I was still getting my master's, crazy enough to start the business while trying to finish my master's and then have this baby. So, but year 1, we did a good 3 events. Year 2, it grew to about 2 to 16 events. Then year 3 was averaging around between 25 to 30 events. And by
25 to 30 events, what?
A year.
Okay, got it. Okay.
A year. And then by year 4, we're probably close to around 50 to 52 events.
Wow. Okay. Well, first of all, shout out to your husband for saying that, right? That's what you need. That's the kind of support, the encouragement, being that like, hey, go get it, right?
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I believe, and you correct me, right? Because I'm okay with being corrected.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people in the faith space who have the skills. And a lot of them are like planning stuff for people, hosting, they're making it work.
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't see how that can become a business because it comes easy to them, one.
Yeah.
And they also think no one's going to pay me for that.
Yeah.
So talk to me, because I feel like there are people I know. I can probably name one at almost every church that I've been a part of, right? So for those of you watching this podcast, maybe that's you. You're the person people call when they say, I'm hosting my parents are doing their 50th wedding anniversary. We're having this graduation. Can you decorate this, that? So kind of tell us, one, what are some of the like if people have certain skills and people are called for different things, this might be their thing. And this kind of help them understand how this can become a business.
Yeah. If you have the eye for creativity, like you can pull nothing out of something. And really make the room, especially like in decor. We all have those people in church that are like, oh, I'm going to take this tablecloth. Next thing you know, the tablecloth is turned into something else. And it's like, this is amazing. Yeah. Don't be afraid to charge for what you're worth. If it's your gift, why would God give it to you if you could not be in your gift? And it's not to just be given away for free. And I think a lot of people of color are fearful of that because I don't know. I'm not sure what stops them from doing it.
Mhm.
But I think for some reason we've had this thing of like, oh no, I can't charge for that. I can't charge this much for that. I've learned quickly that our counterparts are making money in their gifts,
Mhm.
and they're okay with doing that. And I had to learn for that. Like, my first year, I charged someone a wedding for $500. I was crazy. And
By
it
the
was
way,
an African wedding.
now let me now think about this. I'm glad you said what you charged him,
Yeah.
because when you look back then, was there part of you that wondered, is this too much? I wonder if they'll pay. Like, were you even? I know you
I was
saying
even afraid to ask that.
right. That's what I'm. Okay, now that's
I
what I'm
was
talking.
even afraid to ask the 500.
Right.
And I mean, to even think that I did that was like, I didn't make any money. I paid staff too. I know I didn't make any money.
Yeah.
I was probably in the red.
Yeah.
But I was just so afraid to ask for more.
Yeah.
And I had to really get over that. To
Yeah.
say that you deserve this.
Yeah.
Even when you're starting out, you may feel like, well, I'm just starting out. I can't charge this much. The basic thing to do is say, what is the raw cost? What's the
Yeah.
raw cost for the flowers, the linens, and stuff like that? And then from there, you can ask yourself, okay, can I make 30% of that? That's a fair start. Even if you're afraid of 30%, then start at 20. I know some, for most women, especially in this field, you have to start working your psyche up to saying like, okay, I deserve to make this much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I at least say do that. 30% of what after the goods are is fair enough.
That's good. That's good.
Because there's a lot of work that goes into lots of hours.
Yeah, there's so much here, but I think one lesson I want you to hear from what Melissa is saying. Melissa Jakes is our guest today from Rescue Event Planning. Melissa is telling you, if you are that person in your school, on your job, in your neighborhood, in your friend group, in your family, in your church, that people keep coming to you when they have an event. An event can be a baby shower, it can be a wedding, it can be a graduation. If you are that person in some area of what they're looking for, that you have a business on your hands, and it's okay for you to start charging for your services. Now, Melissa, this is a theory that I'm getting just by our conversation. There's some people who haven't charged anything at all. They haven't charged anything at all. And here is crazy. Do I want them to charge what they should charge? Absolutely. So the next statement I'm going to make, I don't want anyone to take that soundbite and say he's telling me to do the wrong thing. I want you to charge what you should charge. But if you have not charged anything, charge something. Right? Charge something. Here's why. Because just like you are telling us, Melissa, by charging something, eventually you're going to grow that muscle of being able to charge. So don't feel like, well, I don't know what to charge. I'm at zero. And okay, let's start with something.
Correct.
And then let's grow that. What do you think about that concept?
Absolutely. I mean, it shows now, I'm a 6-figure earner.
Yeah.
And so going from charging $500 for a wedding of close to 500 people to then being a 6-figure earner.
Person, man.
I know. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But I got there. So can you, if you're kind of struggling with that, at least start somewhere.
Yeah.
And set goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Set annual goals. And we love to do this. In January, I want to make X amount of money. And by the time December comes around, you never even checked into your goal. Each quarter, the end of the last Friday or Thursday of the month the end of the quarter, I'm doing a check-in. Where are we? And how did I get there? So I have certain points to say that I must post X amount of times on social media because that leads me to X. And is that working? Is posting 5 times a week working to producing to get a new client? If that's not working, then we need to change it up because that's not heading to my overall goal, my overall financial goal that I want to reach. So I only have 2 goals for the year, a financial goal and a social media goal. That's where I'm looking at. You need to figure out what you want to do in your business, or as you're growing this, maybe you're like, I want to get 5 new clients. How can you get them? Is it a referral, going and asking people, do you know anyone who needs this? Is it simply putting out on Facebook, I am opening up my books I am charging X amount of things for this type of event. Does anyone need a decorator?
That's good.
I'm telling you, you have to open up your mouth because closed mouths don't get fed.
Yeah, real. That's real. Now, Melissa, we're gonna go somewhere else, but I don't want to leave this pricing conversation without this one more question. So you said it right, 30% on top of what it cost you for the goods. But for a lot of people, what it's costing them is time. So, and then for some of us, it don't take a lot of time, right? But it makes the whole. How do I price now my services as a person who is mainly using time? Right? Because a lot of us are starting to do, well, it's going to be $25 an hour. And but talk to us about that struggle for some of us getting into a business like the one you're doing that's mainly service-based.
Yeah. Google is your friend. Google it. What are people making an hour in a job? So let's say there was an event planner job or a decorator job at a firm or whichever. There are positions like that. You can go on LinkedIn and look up event planning, event management, and there will be a whole list of stuff. What is their hourly rate or what's their salary? Take that and look what their hourly rate is. And then I put years of experience on there. Every year, my prices increase about between 5 to 7%. Inflation, etc. More experience, more clientele underneath my belt, so it justifies it. So I definitely would say, and especially for those who might even have their master's or their bachelor's degree, you paid for that, and that's still experience. Whether it's related to the industry or not, you're still educated. And so I would put that into a factor on top of what the industry rate is going for. And then start there. Either start at the bare minimum, as if you were coming as an entry level into it, and each year should increase. You're giving yourself a raise. Because you would never do it if you don't say, I have to give yourself a raise.
I love it. So Melissa, now we're talking about this business. When you started, were you full-time right away? Like, did you go straight? Okay. So talk to us about that part-time into full-time sort of shift. Like, for some people, they feel like if I start a business, that means I got to quit my job tomorrow. So talk to us about that transition.
Listen, bills are real, mortgage and kids are real. So please do not just jump off the deep end with no plan. Unless you have a plan, then so make sure you do that. So like I said before, I started off and I had like 3 events the first year. The second year I had like 2 to 16 events. And it's kept growing each year. By year 4, when I was kind of averaging that 50 to 52, I started really evaluating because, as you guys can think about this, I started a full-time job. I finished my master's by then, but full-time job with a baby, a husband, and then I'm doing this business. 52 events a year, that's 52 weeks in a year. So I am burning the candles at both ends. So I had to really say, like, how can I make this work? So I started lining up potential consultations in my social work side where I can consult and that can pay for the bills. Bare minimum, mortgage is getting covered, car note is getting covered, little incidentals or whatnot. I don't have to worry, but it doesn't take as much time as a consultant because you don't have that 9 to 5 regulations of driving into a space with the traffic and having your boss overlooking everything you're doing. So that consultation piece made me be able to really flex my time so that I can then still do both and grow it. And that's very important that you need to, for those who I have helped transition into their business full-time, I tell them, get some consulting work done. And the only way I was able to do that is during my 9 to 5, I was networking like crazy. You need to attend networking events. Oh, again, you open up your mouth, you never know who's around to hear, like, oh, most people don't want full-time employees. It costs a lot of money.
That's true.
So consulting works as a subcontractor. Of course, you need to work out the taxes. I know people are like, well, what about the taxes? You get a good CPA.
Yep.
You get a good CPA for that, you'll be fine. Don't worry about those taxes. But that really is what helped me do that transition, that I had the consultation and then I started building it up, that I can get the amount of events and the amount of income in and to be able to then drop off. I don't even do the consulting work anymore. Some people still do approach me. So if it's worth it, I'm like, okay, I'll do it, for a little extra funds. But that is the best way I can say to transition, because in the event world is hard, because you have a wedding here, you have a wedding there. And if you're already scared to charge, you're not going to be making enough money.
Yeah. Now, somebody, and I also want to capture this. Let's say the event is 2 hours, right? The event is 2 hours, but your work is not the 2 hours of the event. Your work is before and after. And I really encourage people to charge package rather than hourly. So that this is my package for doing this event, rather than them counting your hours. You don't want them counting your hours, right? No. Because you don't want them saying, why did it take you so long? You don't want that.
Not even that. They will think like, oh, does it really? And yes, it does.
Yeah. Now, somebody's watching this and they're going to take action, right? Because I believe in you. I believe in you, person watching this, person viewing this. They want to know how you got your first few clients and how they should go about getting their first few clients as a service-based business built on the thing that their gift and their talents and their God-given abilities.
Yes. Absolutely. So my first year, I told you I did 3 events. What I didn't tell you is that none of them were paid.
Ooh.
I started advertising and a lot of people said, can I see your work? And I didn't have a business coach in the beginning, which I highly recommend. Please get a business coach and someone who knows exactly what they're doing. Now I know, like, Melissa, that's more money. You can sacrifice that Starbucks, maybe your hair, something, but that is definitely a must because it really helps you. But I need a portfolio. So no one wanted to pay me because I didn't have any portfolios to show them my work I've done. So I wasn't getting anyone. So I went straight to Facebook. Again, I keep saying it. But I went to Facebook and said, I am giving 3 event planning services away for the year.
Wow.
Hit me up. And I got over 50. And I said, this is the 3. I'm done. Thank you so much. Like less than 20 minutes.
Wow.
Thank you so much. So I worked those 3 and I said, I have to be able to use all of your photos. I need a testimonial, everything, so that I can build this to be able to get people for the next year. And so that's how I went from 3 to 16 events the next year. So, I'm not recommending that you should do the 3 free events, but that was my situation. I had no portfolio. So if you're in a situation now where you're like, I want to start this, you need to make sure you're taking photos, get testimonials from people, gather that stuff now so that when you do your packages, just like you said, I would not do hourly services. I only do hourly for my government contract because that's what they ask for. But they're willing to put in the hours for it. For your regular, weddings and whatnot, it's a package because it is going to take you. Sometimes it may take you less hours. Sometimes it does take you more, but you never know. So just package it in.
I love it. Now, Melissa, this is as you're talking about this, what we don't realize, like, you did the free work, you got the pictures, you got the testimonials, you even got some referrals probably off of that. People might think, well, if I gave it to them for free, wouldn't the next person think it's for free? And here's something they miss. No one gets on a testimonial and says, I work with Melissa, she did my wedding, she did my whatever, and she did it for no one says that. They just talk about the value of it. And so a testimonial is a testimonial, right? Like, you need that proof.
Yes. And that could have been a sale. Who cares?
Yeah. Nobody really knows, right? So
right.
Yeah.
So don't let that stop you.
Yeah. Now, is there, and you talk to us about this. You do event planning, and event planning, just from my limited knowledge, I think there's a lot of it's a huge umbrella. How have you done any work in terms of like narrowing down what you do in event planning, who you do it for, your organization? Like, talk to us about, have you done that? And if you have, how you've gone about the process of kind of narrowing that focus?
Yeah, I'm just now starting to kind of niche down, and I'm almost year 10. So for some people, they know, like, I love weddings and that's all I want to do. then that's great. But I did all events because I didn't want it to limit myself, so that I could then figure out what I do like or what I don't like. In that, I've learned that weddings are beyond stressful. And after dealing with corporate, weddings become more stressful. So I limit the amount of weddings that I do a year. I love working with small businesses, nonprofits, associations, chambers, and government entities. Love it. And because I really, especially when it comes to small businesses and women-owned businesses, I love showing them how they can utilize events to scale their business. And I'm always thinking, and what's different from me from other planners, because you just think like, oh, they plan the event, that's it. I'm thinking beyond the event. I'm thinking about your ROI. After the event is over, how are you getting these group of people to still stay in your network? What is your funnel? What is the next thing you're going to do with them? Whether it's with me or not. But you need to think beyond the event. Because most people are like, that was a great event. What's next? If you're doing a conference, you're dropping the dates for your next conference at the event. And they're getting early bird tickets. Ooh. That's what I'm thinking for you. Because then you have the pool, you got the people excited. Then they're like, girl, you didn't get your tickets for this conference, you need to get it. So that's the difference I am from other folks.
I like it. So you said, and I respect this because I think not enough people talk about this in business. They tell you niche down, niche down, niche down. A lot of people are niching down without getting started, right? So here it is, they're trying to like figure out what's my niche. Like, feel free to like use them stuff and then figure out what you like, right? That's not conventional, that's not popular, but it's real. It's real.
Well, that's what we tell our kids in high school. They don't know what they want to do. They take that test that tells them, and they're like, that's what the test told me. No. Go and intern at all these different places that you might have an idea. Did you like it? Did you not? So why would we not tell the same thing in the business field?
Absolutely.
Try all the type of stuff and then eventually see, did I like how this event turned out? Do I like these type of clients that come with this event? And then you can start niching down.
I love it. So Melissa, we're talking about businesses and stuff. And there's something you said that I don't want to just lose it. If you are in business, any kind of business, what Melissa is talking about is important because events are a way to grow your business, right? Correct. So talk about how an event, and you kind of shared a little bit, but for that business owner who might think, well, I have a different type of business. Why do I need events? Talk to them about why an event is one of the best hacks for business growth.
Think about when you go to an event, especially a business event. Let's just do a networking one. You go, you have your business card. All right. Everyone has the same intentions. I'm going to go and I'm going to network and meet people to build a relationship engagement. Well, guess what? You're at an event. In that same excitement that you had, other people are going to have. And when they're going to talk about, at this event, I met so many amazing people. Who put on that event?
Yeah.
This person put on this event. So whether it's a networking, whether it's a meet and greet, whether it's about a book tour, it's about the engagement of people in the room that gets people excited. And that's why I was so happy when in-person is coming back. Of course, we did create that virtually, but in-person is just such a high, I call it. You get that high of meeting people and talking, and the engagement is so good that most people are like, I want this again. And so when you're not doing it often, then you get lost in the sauce as a business owner. But when you're doing it, not often don't mean you need to do it every month. Spread it out once a year, twice a year. But events, no matter what services you're in, it creates engagement of like-minded people, and they're excited to be there, especially if you have like a good speaker.
Yeah.
Even if there's like an entertainment area where it's like speed networking and you create a cute little game out of it, they will remember that, and they'll remember who put the event on.
Yeah, that's so good. And if you don't know how to put on a good event, call Melissa. Right?
Yes.
Call Melissa. Right. All right. I want to talk to you about a couple more things.
Sure.
You mentioned the pivot with the pandemic. Was there ever a moment during that you felt, oh my gosh, my business is built on people meeting in person. What am I going to do? And then how, if you did, like, how did you figure out that pivot?
Yeah, so I was pregnant with my son during the pandemic, and I was already a bit nervous because I have high risk pregnancy. So I was like, how am I going to do these events 9 months pregnant, high risk? And then the pandemic happened. And at first I was like, oh, thank you, God, because boy, I'm pregnant, I'm tired. This is a great break. But it was like a great break for a month. Then I realized this is not good. We're about to be in trouble because these things aren't coming back and things are just canceling. So I had a realtor friend who the realtors will always do their monthly seminars of saying like how to become a home buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was probably maybe about 6 months in the real estate space. So this was very vital for her to build her funnel. And she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, you know what? Can I try something with you? Again, I did it for free. I said, I need a testimonial. I need all your realtor friends. And we did it. And it was so amazing. Everyone was on a high. It was almost like in person. And probably because we couldn't see people, the way that they interacted was amazing. And the information they got from her was amazing. It also helped that the market during that time was amazing too on the interest rates, unlike now.
Yeah.
So that then sparked into me, and I did not wait. Some event planners were like, we're just going to wait it out. And some of them are no longer in the event planning space.
Wow.
I was like, you know what? We're going to probably be in this for a moment. And let me learn 3 good platforms. And from that, I started pitching people. This is what we can do. Don't cancel. Turn it to virtual. To the even mailing out kits. So like some people had birthday parties and they had like a holiday theme. We did like popcorn with like candies in it in a little box and shipped it out so that everyone could have the experience of eating popcorn and candies at the birthday party. So different experiences like that really is what set us apart during the pandemic. But I probably took like maybe a month of like, oh, okay, this is a cute break. And I quickly realized some people are about to be in trouble.
Yeah, no, you pivoted quickly. And I attended at least one of the events that you put on. It was amazingly done. It was by Oliver and Denise. Great.
Yes.
Yeah. So so many questions. All right. So but there's some of us, right, present company, right, like that. Yeah. We're okay selling to individuals, but we have a little bit of a challenge selling to organizations. You mentioned chambers of commerce, other businesses, and even like maybe government. How do you break into the space, and what's different when you're selling B2B rather than B2C, business to business rather than business to consumer?
The easiest thing is they're business owners. And so it's not like a wedding and a baby shower where emotions are in it. Deliverables. Did you make the deliverables? Great. And they don't have to worry about it. And you're producing the deliverables. You're a forever client. And it grows. Once you're in that corporate space and you do that association or that nonprofit, other people are paying attention and they attend those events. So they're like, who did this? And it's easily getting the word out. My first one.
Yeah, I want to hear about that one because that's the one I want. Yeah.
Yeah. My first client was actually the Memorial Foundation. They're still a client to this day. And at first, when I got the inquiry, I was like, oh, who is this? And I started researching them. Always research your people before you get on a call with them. Please do. I'm a little detective. I'll find you on LinkedIn, Facebook, and figure out what's going on there with the organization. And so it was their annual luncheon that they have around CBC week. And at that time, we did it at the MLK Memorial across from it. And they would do a tent with AC and all that stuff. Their biggest issue is they were DIYing a lot of stuff and their registration never worked out. Either they didn't have enough tables or chairs and people didn't know where they were sitting. And so that was their biggest issue. I always ask my client, what is your heartburn like? What keeps you up at night when it comes to this event? Because I want to solve it. Because then I'm always I'm your appeal that you're going to take every time. You're like, oh, Melissa got to be there.
Melissa, you just give that right there was just so good. because you're not putting on an event, you're solving a problem. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no. So that was beyond amazing. I didn't even think I realized who attend those type of events. We're talking about congressional members. I met John Lewis there. I have pictures of him dealing with my staff. That's forever like amazing. And from there, that's when I realized, and thank goodness I did this. I hired a videographer and a photographer to capture me in the moment. And that is evergreen content. Probably to this day, you go to my website, you'll see that video rolling on my website. And that was my first entry into like that nonprofit. Even though I worked at a nonprofit in my social work side, that was my first entry of like really being exposed what can happen beyond.
I love that. Well, listen, so many good things, but you mentioned getting on a call, hosting that call very well with the decision maker, getting their pain point and producing something that addresses that pain point, that issue, that challenge they're having, and then making sure you capture what you do so that the next person knows. Because the first, my theory, the first one is probably the hardest to get. But once someone else has seen you get that first client, they go, well, if they work with Melissa, right, and she did it for them, what about me, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Always. Even to this day, there's people like, oh, I was at this gala and we're having such a hard time. Can we have a consultation with you?
Yeah, that's it.
So it eventually really starts working out. The biggest thing is making sure you're staying relevant. I know some people hate posting on social media. I don't want people knowing about me, but especially in event planning, you're in the service field. And it's really about you. You are the brand.
Yeah.
And so you have to be relationable and connected.
That's good. That's good. Now, you do a whole lot. How do you get everything done that you get done?
So I have this system called Asana that I use. Some people may use Monday. I feel like they're all kind of the same, just whatever. But that really helps me because it's a lot. It's a lot. Like I told you guys one time, 52 events in a year. That's a lot of details going on and on. Not only that, I have a virtual assistant. So she helps me get it together. But you know, if you're starting out, I didn't always have a virtual assistant. It was just me by myself. And so I would definitely say you create a way to keep yourself together.
Document.
Definitely. Whether it's on the project management tool Asana, whether you have a notebook, I sometimes write it down 3 times just to make sure I don't miss anything. And especially when you're working from home, act like you're going to work. If you're used to the 9 to 5, get up, take a shower, brush your teeth, get dressed, get your coffee or tea. And I'm going to go. I tell my husband every day, oh, my commute to work is so long. He'd be like, no, mine's is long. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I have to drop Gabby off. Then I have to come back around and I'm going into the office. So, but I make it like I'm going into the office because if you don't, you'll get lazy real quick.
Yeah. And
you're not doing what you need to do. There's some days I'm in my PJs. Of course, you can have those moments, but I really try to act like I'm going into an office just to kind of, keep that business mindset together.
That's good. That is so good. So Melissa, you mentioned staff before. You have a virtual. How, if you're doing a service business, I believe at some point you need to have other people. So talk about how you get people on your team, how you choose the right people. Like, talk about that process.
Yes. So, boy, I've gone through some people. Okay.
I'm gonna sit back on this one.
I've gone through some people. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to go through that moment. There's no perfect world where you're like, I found the perfect people forever. And people grow, right? Especially in the service field and in event planning. Not everyone stays at that same level forever. And I don't want them to. I want them to grow in life. I don't want to be selfish. There's a time in the season for everyone. So I decided I did have W-2s at one point and I hated it. So I now stick with subcontractors. And I use people that I've interviewed them. They've done like a small event with me. Let's say like a baby shower, a
Mhm.
grand opening, something that's minimal. Try them out, see how they like it, and get feedback from them. What did you like about it? What did you not? And I warn people up front, event days, I run a show that breaks everything down. I have floor plans printed. I have vendor information printed. If you didn't read anything, don't come and ask me a dumb question. I don't be like, there's not a dumb question. There are dumb questions. So, and that also tells me, are you paying attention? Because I can't baby you during an event. We are live in action. It's a go time. And we can't take the time back. So I make sure I try them on those small events first before I take them to a big event. And if they're rocking with me, I'm like, yeah, you're on the team forever, because I respect that. And then so I have like a good pool of about 15 to 20 people that I can say like, hey, here are the events for the year, and as more events come up, anyone available who's available to do what. I do have a lot of people who do have 9-to-5s, and they just want some extra funds. And because a lot of events happen on the weekend or in the evening time, they're able to do it. So that works out well for me as well.
That's good, Melissa. Melissa Jakes, you showed us why you are the Olivia Pope of events. Now, I have one more question for you, but I want you to tell people, first of all, how they can get in contact with you, how they can follow you. And then I want to ask you this last question about what you would have done. Well, how would you advise Melissa Jakes when she was getting started with the knowledge you have now? So tell us how we could get in contact with you.
Absolutely.
So give us the info.
Yeah. So on Instagram is rescue_events. On Facebook and LinkedIn is just Rescue Event Planning. You can definitely check out our website, rescueeventplanning.com, or send us an email, Melissa@rescueeventplanning. We're definitely here for you.
Awesome. That's it. Make sure you go to check out that website, rescueeventplanning.com. And on Instagram is @rescue_events. Make sure you send Melissa a message. Some of you probably are planning some major event for your business, for yourself, for your family. Hit her up, her and her team. They'll take care of you as you do that. All right, Melissa, you said you started 2015.
Yes.
Okay, and maybe the reason I asked this question is because I know there's someone watching this where you were in 2015, just getting started. And maybe you want to help them avoid some of the mistakes or get to where you are now faster. What would you advise that Melissa, with the knowledge you have now, what would you have told her then?
First thing is get that business coach. That will save you time and money. I know that sounds weird saying that because you have to pay for a business coach, but honestly, it will save you. The biggest thing is time. You can never get time back. So it'll save you time. And overall, it will save you money because you won't be paying into things that you think you should have paid into. That's not important. I will also say give yourself grace. I'm naturally a perfectionist. And so I'm always like, I want to be on point every single time. And it's okay to have grace moments. Life is going to happen. But don't ever give up because, back then, 10 years, like to tell myself how much I would have been making now 10 years ago and where you're at, be like, no, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So definitely keep pushing forward.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like you just kept with it, ups, downs, kept with it, kept growing. And thank you for being on here today. So when is the 10 year of your business?
February 4th of 2025.
Okay, so are we doing an event for this?
Oh yeah, I already had it on my.
I want to make sure. Now, I was going to say, if you can't be the event person,
I know, and don't do an event. I know.
Now, yeah.
Yes, I put it on my calendar already, so I'm starting to strategize what that looks like because it's going to be a business expense.
Oh, there we go.
And it's definitely going to be growing the business further, but also celebrating at the same time.
I love it. Melissa Jakes has been our guest today on the Monetize Your Ministry podcast. This is for you. You know who you are. You are that person. Everybody's calling you for that service. And your service might be events, right? It might be something else, but you are that go-to person. And what we just want to encourage you is what you have is something that's not just a ministry to help someone, but it's also a way for you to increase your family income. And so I want you to take what you learned here on this episode, put it into practice, and go increase your income and your impact.
Thank you for listening to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast with Kamon Hines. For more information, visit our website at www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. That's www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please share this episode with someone who needs it. Let's increase our income and impact.